Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I want to share with you my completed painted build here of the perfect grade Strike Gundam. So first off, this is my first time fully painting a perfect grade, and I gotta say it was an interesting experience. Really nothing all that too different from just like a big complicated master grade for the most part. The Strike Gundam being probably one of the more simpler perfect grades out there, so I don't think it was really too much of a challenge to the fact that it was a perfect grade. I did do a little bit of modification onto it. And before I get into just talking about all that, this was a commission, so there was a kind of set goal before this, so it wasn't like all entirely my own choosing of everything that all went into this. Basically, what the client for this commission wanted was a kind of tactical strike, so a version of the Strike Gundam that was basically just looked like it's more meant for like a kind of tactical assault use. So basically, like what we first started off with in the process was trying to figure out a color scheme that went along with that, and I was looking at a lot of stuff. I was looking at like a lot of artwork like from Metal Gear Solid, because that's it was just like the first thing that I thought of when I thought of tactical. And then just other different artwork and things like that, just character artwork and things like that on Pinterest, and that's a really good place to look actually if you guys are wanting to find like art inspiration for color schemes and things like that. Just look at just different design work on Pinterest. It's a good resource. Mecha designs and character designs and all that. Anyway, there's a lot of good stuff on there. So yeah, so it took a long time to finally nail down a color scheme that we liked, and we finally got to that. And then the modifications were pretty much just all my idea. Those weren't really instructed like by the client, or requested I should say. So the things that I wanted to do, the first thing that I wanted to do was shorten up the side skirt armor. So basically just the side skirts are a little bit longer and they're meant to hold the knives in there originally, but I just don't really like the long side skirts of the Strike. I just like it much better when they're shorter like this. So chopped those off and then just kind of refitted the door on there, so that's just a shorter, more compact version of the side skirts there, so obviously they don't hold the knives. And then a couple little modifications to the rifle, the beam rifle. Basically just chopped off the end of the barrel to make it more shorter, and then just got rid of the camera on there so it doesn't have that. And then the forward grip, or the second hand grip on that, I just turned into a kind of ammo magazine on there, so it basically looks a little bit more like a kind of real world kind of automatic rifle or something like that, basically. So it just looks a little bit different, and I really like the way that came out in terms of the painting, and that of painting like the top half of that in that kind of like light tan color. I like how that turned out quite a lot, so really happy with that. And then we weren't really going to use the shield. I just didn't really think that that big giant shield really fit in with the tactical nature of what we were going for. So what I did was I ended up using a few of the parts from the shield mount, and I did still want to use the knives. And again, just going back to looking at Metal Gear Solid artwork, one kind of design aspect that I really loved from Metal Gear Solid 4 was especially the fight between Raiden and Vamp, and Vamp's knife blades like stored in that kind of holder on his like the side of his arm. So that was the inspiration for the idea of putting the Strike's knives there attached onto his kind of like the back of his arm there, kind of the elbow. So I used the connector for the shield, and then basically just glued the knives on there. I reshaped the knives also a little bit. I made the blades shorter and more pointed, so just those are a little bit kind of more tactical looking, I guess. And then of course we have the big sword, which he now has strapped onto his back. That's the Strike's Grand Slam sword. I felt like it was kind of a waste not to use that, so that one also was very much inspired by this Raiden's sword. Basically I just reshaped that a little bit to make it a little bit shorter, and didn't have a curved edge to it, but just a straight kind of like katana shape to it. And so that was that. And then yeah, and I used a couple of like the mount parts from the Strike's shield, and had to do a little bit of like scratch building modifying to make that connect onto the backpack, and also used a little magnet in there to hold the pieces together. But now that holds the folded up Grand Slam onto his back there, basically just plugged into one of the like hole hard points there where you would normally plug in one of the different striker packs on there, I believe. So That is pretty much it in terms of the modifications. Other than that, it was just a lot of sanding. Oh my god, there was a lot of sanding that went into this kit just before painting it, just to get it ready for paint, just because there's so many parts and so many different surfaces everywhere. So I did a lot of sanding on this kit just to get it ready, and then of course just painting it took a while just because there's so many parts. The paint scheme basically is just the inner frame, and most of the frame is it's mostly all one color of gray. That's and as usual, most of the colors I use on this were custom mixed or a little bit tweaked in some way, so I can't really give you exactly what colors that I used. But I think if there's any colors that I know that I used straight out of the bottle, I'll put those down in the video description below if you're interested. But yeah, there's 2 tones of brown and 2 tones of white basically. The white are very faint, so I think you'll definitely have to see it up close to be able to see the difference between those. And that's what I like. I don't like when you use like 2-tone kind of like RG style painting and the tones are too different and it's too stark a contrast between them. It's just kind of too much for me, I think, for your eye when you're looking at it. But when they're just barely different, that's why I think it works the best. So my 2 tones of white are just a little bit different. The 2 tones of brown are a little bit easier to tell apart, but even those are still pretty close. And then obviously there's a couple little accents in there of, I kept a couple little bits of red and a couple little bits of yellow from the original scheme in there as well, just for the parts for the vents and a couple parts on the head, and obviously the big red part there for the crotch. And the chrome parts, this kit does come with some chrome, like little pistons and things like that. I just kept those chrome, didn't repaint those or anything, just used them as they were. And then for little bits like around the stomach and for the feet, painted those in not black, but I believe that was maybe midnight blue. I want to say either midnight blue or tire black, one of those like really dark gray colors. A little just word of advice for you guys, for any of you guys who are maybe new to painting, it's probably the best idea, just don't really ever use just straight black unless you really want it to look like black. If you want it to look black but not be too dark and too stark of contrast, use just a super dark gray color like that, and it still like looks like it's supposed to be black, but it's not too dark. So that's just kind of what I normally tend to do. I very rarely use like just straight black. And then after that, you know, it's just the kind of the normal stages of just pen aligning, and all the white parts are pen aligned in brown, and all the brown parts are pen aligned in black, if I remember correctly. Yeah. And then just all the decals. I just use a whole bunch of mess of just the just waterslide decals from Haikyuu. And you'll also notice on the front skirt, seeing as how I took a lot of inspiration from Metal Gear Solid when we were coming up with the layout for this kit, I thought it was fitting to use one of my Metal Gear Solid decals. I have a whole bunch of Metal Gear Solid logos in decal form that I had Samuel print out for me a while back. So yeah, it's got the Outer Haven logo there on his front skirt, and then a couple little extra like special markings on the front of his chest there. It's got like the kill counts kind of heads. It's like these little gym heads with crosses through them, so like just downed units basically. So that's sort of, I don't know what the exact wording for that is, but you guys know what I mean. Those decals were from Bandai's like official decal set. I think that's for the MSV Zaku 1/144 scale MSV Zaku kits. So this is not really meant to be anything in canon in the Gundam universe. It's just sort of meant to be a kind of totally separate thing. So it's not really too clashing in my mind to put like kill the gym heads on the front of a Strike Gundam. I know some people might get like a little bit flustered about that, but to me, this just doesn't really exist in the Gundam universe, so it doesn't really matter. And then one more thing I did make for the kit is this custom base. So this is just like a wooden tray thing that I just bought from like the dollar store. It was like $5, and then just with this piece of plot plate, and just did some scribing on that, some painting, added a few little detail parts, and a couple water slides on there, including a larger Outer Haven water slide on that to make this base, and I think it came out pretty cool. So yeah, it was basically just a matter of just cutting out a piece of plot plate to fit in the bottom of the tray there, and then just sketching out what I thought would make for some cool lining on there to break it up a little bit, and then describing that all out. It really didn't take all that long, or it probably took like about 30 minutes to sketch out all just like the pattern and everything, and then another 30 minutes to just scribe everything out. Really relatively simple. And again, just added a couple little detail parts in there, a couple little vents. Some used like, I think it's 1 millimeter thick wire to make like a little guard railing there on the sides. A couple extra parts here and there, little bits of just little plot plate rod, just 1 millimeter plot plate rod to make little squares to make the little red lights. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So very simple but effective for making a nice simple base. Alright, so then essentially this is the kit in its final form. Now I also added a couple little wires there. This is what I was envisioning, and I thought would be kind of cool, just because of the fact that it's just in like a static standing position and standing on what looks to be sort of like a kind of hanger floor, basically. So I thought, you know, have it connected in some way and have it just be by some wires, some like cabling or something. So I thought connect that into on the back of the Strike where there's the kind of port for that, and just make a couple holes in the base therefore, and use this red wire that I had. Now that I'm looking at it, I'm wondering if it doesn't look too weird. I don't know. I think it looks cool, but I don't know how you guys are maybe seeing it. Let me know in the comments what you think of it. I'll just kind of include the wires, and for the client who this commission is for, you know, if he wants to stick with using that or not, it'll be up to him. But maybe if they were in a different color or something like that, it wouldn't look as strange. I don't know. I mean, the red looks cool, but I don't know. What do you guys think? So that's it for this kit. Happy to be done with it, but I didn't like intentionally speed through the process. Of course, I took my time, and I think it came out really well. I wouldn't want to do anything for a commission that I didn't feel like I put my entire effort into. So basically, I mean, when I do this kind of work, I just do it how I would want it to be done, and so that I'm very happy with that. So that's a wrap on this build, and thank you guys so much for checking out the video and hearing me out talking a little bit about that. Hopefully that was interesting for you guys. Let me know what you think of the build, how it came out, what you may have done differently, what you liked that I did, what you think that I didn't do very well. I'm certainly all ears for any and all types of feedback and criticism, so thank you so much for that in advance. I'll look forward to reading all your guys' feedback in the comment section. And currently at the moment I have another build that I just wrapped up, so I'll have another one of these completed painted build videos for you coming up very soon, so stay tuned for that, probably the next couple days. If you have any other further questions about the build, something that I maybe forgot to mention about, or something you'd like to know about my build here, feel free to ask that in the comment section there down below as well. And as always guys, have a great day. I'll see you next time. Bye bye.
Thanks for watching. See you next time.